Okay, so as I was explaining, web development is a very easy task and you can get started immediately. You can start creating your websites, web pages, and start sharing with others. Very simple, very easy. Few technologies, and then you are good to go ahead. There is no background needed. You don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to really know anything about programming, and still you can do whatever you want to do. Okay. I hope you are familiar with these logos. Really? Are you familiar with these logos that I just brought up? Let me bring it again. Give me 1 second. Okay. What comes to your mind? You can type whatever comes to your mind after seeing these logos. So what is this logo indicating? What is this? Imagine in, what is this? Are you familiar with Imagine? Keep typing your responses, or if you are comfortable speaking, you can unmute yourself and speak, no problem. So what is this? Imagine. It's a brand name. Yes, Shyam, thank you. What is Google?
Search engine.
Google is a search engine. Very good. This one, do you know this? What is this logo about? This something like F.
It's a Facebook logo.
Facebook logo. Good. And what is this?
That's NDTV.
NDTV is a news website. Okay, so let me click on these and it will take me somewhere. What do you see now? What has come here? You see the same logo out here, right? And what is this? What comes to your mind when you see this content here? What comes to your mind, please? Speak up. Let's keep it interactive. You can. It is Amazon's website on Amazon and Flipkart and Snapdeal and Paytm, right? And you shop a lot, and you must have seen this website at least once. I am sure everyone tries to buy things from e-commerce portals like Amazon, right? It's Amazon shopping site, yes. Okay, so let me go back and do this, clicking Google, what it gives me. This is, as somebody said, it's a search portal or search engine. And here what I have done is searched Google. And it is telling me a lot about Google itself. So it is listing a whole lot of links to other websites or other things related to Google, right? Let's go to the third logo, Facebook. Okay, so this is asking me to log in, or if I don't have an account, I can create my account. And what is it showing? you can connect with many people, right? So this is the fourth such content. Next is NDTV. Okay, this is giving us a whole lot of news, the latest news about COVID-19 and what is happening around the world, in film world, in politics, and so many other things. Okay, so what we have seen so far are 4 links. Please remain on mute. Uh, please keep your camera off. Whenever you have to speak, unmute yourself and speak. But for other times, please remain muted. Please switch off your camera. I still see somebody has switched on the camera. Okay, so what do you see? What is anything common? These are 4 uh, screens that are available to you. One is for Amazon, one for Google, one for Facebook, and one for NDTV. Anything that you think is common between them? Please keep typing your response. What is common between these 4? These are 4 websites. 4 websites
Web
maintained by
pages.
different company, right? One website is for Amazon, another is for Google, another is for Facebook, and one for NDTV. I've chosen 4 different domains. One is e-commerce, another is a search engine, another is a social networking site, and the 4th one is a news portal. These are very popular, and we use it, we refer to them, we browse them every day. You may not be watching NDTV, but some other news portal at least. So everything that you see here is relevant for a specific type of person or a group of people. Somebody who is interested in shopping will go to Amazon's website. Somebody who is looking for some information will go to Google. Somebody who wants to connect with friends will go to Facebook. And somebody who wants to see or know what is happening around the world will go to news portals. But all of these have one thing common. All of these are websites. Okay, so let's go back, and we just saw these, and these are what? Websites. What is website? It's a set of related web pages located under a single domain name. Now, it has got some technical words. I will explain you what these technical words mean. It is talking about web pages and domain name. So what you see here, like Amazon.in, that is called a domain name. All other pages that you will browse or that you will go to on Amazon by clicking various links will most likely begin with Amazon.in. Similarly, all the links that you will click on ndtv.com's portal will take you to a next content, or it will bring a content that will begin with ndtv.com. So domain name is like an address to a particular place or a machine, actually, technically saying, and then various content or various web content is organized under that domain name. What we are going to do basically is create the web content, the web pages. Okay, So there could be many pages. There could be just one page, a site with single page, a site with multiple pages, a site with lot of colors, lot of text, lot of images. It's all possible, and that's the whole purpose of this learning session. We want to learn how to create web pages so that we can organize them, put them together, and host it or make it available to someone I want to allow using under a domain name, right? We'll learn all that gradually, but we'll first start learning what a web page is. Now, in this whole journey, we will talk about uh, various terms that will come again and again. We'll talk about web, we will talk about websites, we'll talk about internet, and sometimes we'll see designing is required, development is required. So let's get into these words one by one and help me understand what is your thought about these terms so that I will uh, maintain the pace or maintain the depth of the things that we will talk about. I should not go too slow or too fast, or I should not make it too simple, which you already know. I should not be repeating them. On the other hand, I should not go too technical, which will be like overflowing. So at any point of time, if you think things are not understandable to you guys, or it is becoming too easy, you already know I'm repeating, just stop me or just tell me what you think, and I will moderate my speed, I will moderate my explanation. Okay? So what is web? Web. You heard this word many a times, right? What comes to your mind when you hear word web? Forget about the web application development. You heard this term quite often. As a maybe as a nursery student, you have heard the word web. What comes to your mind? What is web? Maybe this? What is this?
Spider web.
Spider web. Okay. Or maybe this. What is this?
Fishing web.
Yes, it's the fisherman's web or fishing gear. Excellent. And what is this?
Internet web.
Yeah, it looks like there are multiple laptops which are connected somehow, because you see some pipes are connecting these computers to a big globe, and then because everything is connecting to that globe, it is quite imperative that these computers are interconnected, right? So web can be thought of a system or a grouping of multiple similar nodes or similar objects where they are connected. Okay, so web is what? It's a complex system of interconnected elements. It may be simple. It may be as simple as the spider web. You can very easily find out how each element or each line is, or each point rather, gets connected with other points. You can find the path. Okay. The next one looks little extra complicated than a spider web. Spider web is small in size, very simple, very organized. The second one, which is fisherman's web or fisherman's fish net, that is also quite organized, quite structured, but it is quite big, right? So if you have to go from one point to another point, you may have thousands of options to travel through. The paths that you can take is quite complicated. But in the third picture, when you are thinking about computers, and then computers which are present all around the world. Can you imagine how many computers will be present most likely in the in the world? How many billions? Or if you're comfortable with crores and such units, how many thousand crores, how many lakhs of crores computers can be found on this earth? Any imagination? Several thousand crore computers will be present. And when we think of computer, it is not just the big desktop computers or big mainframe computers. No, the mobile phone that is in your hand or the device which you are using right now to connect with us on this call is also a computer technically. So there are millions and millions of computers present in the world. And now imagine you have to connect from one computer to another computer. How many possible paths are there? How will one machine detect another machine over the network, over the complicated system of interconnected computers? It's overwhelming. But fortunately, for our course, we don't have to worry about that. There is a system in place to get connected with each other. And one system that I hinted you about earlier is domain name. So if you register a domain name, you can make your web content available to the entire world. Anyone can access your content through your domain name. And in the later part of the course, I will explain you how you can register for a domain, how you can host your creations and align it with your registered domain so that it is available to the world. Okay, so not to worry too much about that. Let's see what a site is. Site. Many of you might be engineers. So what comes to your mind when a site is the word to discuss? Generally, site means an area. Site is like a location, right? Or a place. So an area of a ground or a building where the town can be created, or a building can be created, a monument can be created, or a bunch of pages can be hosted, right? So a site is like this. If you're familiar with drawing, engineering drawing, this is one example which will show the layout of your township maybe. And here a building will be constructed like this, right? On each of the plots, there will be buildings constructed. So it's a site where multiple buildings, each block that you see will get constructed. And then on the other side, we can create a site like this, which is our website, which is our GRS Excellence website. We are a training provider, and we have created our website, and that is hosted on a domain called jrsonline.in. And if you want to go there, you have to just type that in your favorite browser, and you will start seeing the content, because there are many content or many web pages put together and made available through this website. So in our case, we're not going to focus on the engineering website or the civil engineering website, I should say, but we will focus on the website. So web is the interconnected network of elements or computers in our case, and for us, site is a place which we will create, where we will create a whole lot of web pages and host so that other networked computers can access it, right? Vivek said site is a place. Very good, Vivek. So for us, what is important is a website, and it's a basically what? It's a set of related web pages on internet. Okay. Now, what is internet? Any idea what is internet? So once again, the same old picture. This looks like an internet. When you are able to connect from one machine to another machine which is far, far away from you, and you are able to do that, there is a technology behind it. And that technology is called internet. Okay, it's a net or web are the same, right? Fisherman's net or spider's web are same, and inter means it indicates actually the international boundaries or intercontinental boundaries. So network which is spread all around the world, intercontinental network of what? Network of computers. Yes, Syam said connection of various network, basically connection of various computers which are able to communicate with each other. That technology is called internet. So it can be thought like this as well. We can have multiple networks communicating with each other, right? So we can create smaller networks, like Shyam said, connection of various networks. Good. So we can create small network, and then all of them get connected with other networks, and then that network gets connected with another network, and then from the other side also it expands like that, and then it creates a very large complex network of networks, and then each computer or each device is able to communicate with other device. Of course, there will be controls. Not everything can be allowed to communicate with others, because that also brings some risks of hacking, risks of getting your data exposed, getting unnecessary people into your network. So that's a separate area of controlling the access, what is allowed, what is not allowed. But the whole purpose of internet is to allow connections between various devices and various machines that should get connected. Like your phones want to connect with your through phone, you want to connect with other people on uh, some other location, or you want to uh, let your fridge send a message to an e-commerce portal that I want to have few bottles of milk delivered, right? It's an interesting situation where your fridge is sending messages on your behalf to a portal like Amazon Daily, and Amazon Daily is delivering the order without your knowledge. Your fridge took that responsibility, right? That kind of things are happening. It is technically called Internet of Things, where things are talking to each other without human intervention. Humans just configured the communication, and then your car is talking to another car, your car is sending messages to GPS, and then from that, as soon as, imagine a situation when you have just started from your home to office, and you want your computer to be booted automatically, that was sitting on your in your office. You don't want to boot up because boot up takes time. So you said, well, I'm nearing my office. I will reach my office in 5 minutes. Hey, computer, get started. So that once I reach my desk, the computer is all up and running. Or when you are returning back home, you want your AC to be switched on because cooling takes time, right? So cooling will take 15 minutes. So before you are reaching your home, your computer sends a message to your AC system and it automatically gets started. So when you reach home and you open the door, you are entering a nice school room, right? Imagination. And these are not really imaginations nowadays. These are happening. So there is a world of internet connected, or rather interconnected devices, and that is generally called internet. So it's a global computer network providing a variety of information and communication facilities, consisting of interconnected networks using standard communication protocol. Now that is very important for us. Standardized communication protocols. And that is something that we'll learn in this course. What is the standard communication protocol? Now, if we do not have a standard protocol of communication, understanding the messages, understanding the information, and then interpreting that will be very difficult. So we have to have a standard. Like we are right now conversing in English. Now, somebody who is not able to understand English will not be able to understand what I'm trying to say. Or if you do not know English, you will not be able to ask questions to me because of that. So there should be a common understanding between the devices, and for that we need to follow a standard communication protocol. For us, for web application situation, we will learn about some communication protocols, and that will be useful. Okay. Now, the next important thing, especially in the situation of website creation or web app creation, something very, very important that comes is design. Designing. Website, as you have noticed, is what? It's assembly of text, images, and various colors. May look too easy or too simple or too uninteresting or very interesting. So let's go back to sites and see what is looking good, not looking good. So we had Google, Facebook, and NDTV. Now, all of them are presenting some useful content. Okay, so everyone, all of these are very popular websites, but the way they are presenting their content are very different from each other. You can notice. Okay, so let's try to do a voting and find out what is good at this website compared to others. Say, let's talk about color. Let's talk about color. Which website's color is the most soothing for you? Of course, you can differ from others. So it's your personal preference. Which website's colors are good for you? You think, okay, these are good colors. Facebook, Vivek says Facebook's colors are interesting. You can watch or you can browse through these portals on your computer also, because I'm switching between these so that you keep looking at them. But you can see these sites on your own computer and share your opinion. Which site's color you like the most? Color, not just the one background color, maybe overall it looks soothing. Imagine. Okay, Sanjay said Imagine. He likes Imagine's coloring. Google. What about Google? I think Google is the most used website in the world at any point of time. Another vote for Facebook. So Facebook is leading for the time being. 2 votes for Facebook, 1 vote for Imagine. Any preference? Nobody is liking Google's color. Facebook, imagine. Okay, so I see a tendency here. Most of the people are liking Facebook and Imagine's color. Nobody is liking Google's color because basically Google is mostly showing things in three colors: white background, bright white background, and blue and black. Right? It's pretty naive, pretty outdated. It looks like somebody who is new, very new, like us today. You don't know how to create web pages, and it looks like it has remained at that stage. No use of color. It's pretty simple website. While NDTV also has some color, but it is also not as colorful as Facebook or Amazon. Fine. Now let's talk about another thing, use of images. Facebook has images, Amazon has images, even NDTV has images, and some images are appearing on Google too. Which images or which sites images are the most interesting, or you find them very, very visible, easy to understand, and it looks nice. Its presentation on the site looks the best for you. Imagine. Avinash said imagine. Good. Vivek is also preferring imagine. Sanjay, imagine. Okay. You can go inside your Facebook. I have not logged in, but you can go inside your Facebook and take a look if Facebook is giving you better placement or presentation of images. Sujit says Facebook. At least one vote came for Facebook. Good. What about NDTV? Are they not giving, or are they not placing images properly, or what? What's wrong with NDTV? I can understand none will vote for Google because Google is looking very, very primitive always. So no one is voting for NDTV? No problem. Third thing is about the textual content. So we have text present all over the place. Okay, so Vivek said it's too congested and hard to understand. That's on NDTV, I assume, right? Okay, so there are so much of content that it's hard to understand. Okay, all right. Third thing is about the text. NDTV is providing you a whole lot of text, and being a news portal, it has to get you a whole lot of text to read. Okay, there will be videos, of course, but most of the things that you will see here, suppose I clicked on this, it will give you a whole lot of text. Now, if you go to Google, Google is also giving you a whole lot of text because it is showing you the search results and a brief of the page which it is trying to present to you, etc. Facebook will also allow you to, or rather present you the text that somebody will be typing in, but most of the time Facebook will show you more of images than text. Amazon is also using a whole lot of text. So it is not just about using the text, it's about various sizes, various colors of the text in the placement and the spacing and a lot of other things. Okay, so for example, here you see very large size text, while here you are seeing very small size text. Now, which one would you prefer to see? This one? Is this readable easily compared to this one, large? Like if you go back to NDTV, it has so much of text, you see, but something is pretty large, something which is pretty small, something looks like blurred, some in different colors, like red here, like here blue, and a lot of other possibilities. Okay, so text. Some text has some special effect, like if I move my mouse here, it just zooms up, right? Similarly, if I come here, I may get some special effect, but it is the special effect is when I click on something like this, it changes the color. Okay, so it is giving me a different effect. NDTV is a news site, so more text is common for information. Yes, so NDTV will give more text, but it is not just about putting the content, it is also about the sizing, the coloring, the kind of animation, the color changes or responsiveness that makes your text different. Here on Amazon, you see that. You see various sizes of text. This one's looking like the biggest. Then you have some text size here. And but interestingly, when I move my mouse here, it gets surrounded by a border, right? And then when I move my mouse away, it just disappears. So if I read it, normally it looks like one line which says bestseller, mobile, Amazon Pay, pantry, etc. But when I start moving my mouse closer to those texts, it gets surrounded and it gives me a feeling that, okay, these are unique words. And the mouse icon also changes. Mouse pointer becomes a finger, which indicates a clickable item, something which I can click. And suppose I click here, it goes somewhere. Now here you see very different type of texts and image presentation. Your home page might have looked nicer, but this one looks little uglier. Again, a lot of white background and very small text. Anyway, so what we see on websites, it's basically a combination of text, images, and color. Now you have to choose your text, your colors, and your images and place them in such a way that it makes your customer happy or the user happy. You can make the same thing available but very uglily. Imagine you are going to a restaurant, okay, and then you are hungry and you are presented food on a paper, and everything is put up on that paper. No other utensil, like no plates, no cutleries. Everything has been put on paper. Won't you feel like a beggar? But the same thing, the same material, you are given 10 items, but everything is just dropped on that paper and put it in front of you. And you are taking it in your hand and then eating. The feeling that you get versus you go to a restaurant where you are sitting on a chair in front of a nice glass table and having a cloth on your waist, on your thighs, and then a very designer plate with a lot many bowls are arranged nicely, and then you have somebody serving it in your bowls, and you are using your cutleries like spoons and forks and knives to eat it. You feel great, right? Isn't it? So presentation makes a lot of difference, or rather organization of your content makes a lot of difference. And that is all about designing. So when we think about designing, what we have to think of is how am I going to build it? What will be the look? So how basically that comes later. What am I going to build and how will it look like? So design is about a plan or drawing. It's imagination. So how great you can imagine, and you have to imagine based on your user's preference, not on your preference. You may not be the ultimate user. When you are preparing a website, most of the time you are preparing for someone else's consumption, because whatever you are going to present is already known to you. So you will not make it for yourself, you will make it for others. So you have to understand what others will like. Suppose you are creating a website for kids and you are not a kid, the taste of kids will be very different from you. So you will have to think like a kid or imagine what a kid will like. Or if you are creating a website which is for younger generation gamers, you will have to get into their mindset. You are probably you are a 60-year person, and then you are creating a website for a teenager, and you want to present them with lot of grave colors and no animation because you think it's like too flashy. But no, your audience requires flashy content. So you have to think about your audience, your user base, and not yourself. Okay, so you have to create, imagine, and then prepare a drawing, prepare a layout, where you will decide how your things will look and how will they function or work. So that is commonly done in engineering, like when you are building something or you are creating a dress material or creating a dressing thing like garments or any object. But remember, before it is made, you have to do this exercise before it is made, because if you want to do that later, it will be more difficult. So you must think about designing early on. How do you want to see it before you start building it? Okay, so you have to think of creating drawings, layouts, maybe mocking, using some tools like hand drawing, or create a picture using some tools you may be familiar with. If you are familiar with tools like MS Paints or Word or any such simpler tool which gives you the visualization. Remember, websites are for visualizing or making your customer visualize you. You are there. You want them to see you or see your offerings through the virtual world. And this, if they feel like I am seeing it real, it's like your shop experience. So e-commerce websites, for example, if you are shopping, that means you want to get into the shop and you want to uh, feel the product, you want to touch the product, you want to see the pricing, you want to turn it around and see the size, feel the weight, feel the texture, etc. So if you can provide that kind of feeling, that kind of experience on the website, people will get attached to your website and they will feel comfortable, right? That's the goal, that's the objective. So there are many sites like Lenskart and all, they give a lot of simulations. Suppose you are selling a, uh, uh, wall coloring material like Asian Paints or somebody like that, Nerolac. Now they can show a lot of colors, but imagine somebody who is allowing you to paint the house virtually. So you have your house walls and then you apply paints and you visualize how will it look like. Or if you go to a hairdresser and hairdresser shows you, okay, you have your face and different hairstyles put onto your skull, and then how will you look like? So after cutting your hair, it's not possible. But before cutting your hair, you put your face, and onto that, on your head, various hairstyles are positioned, and then you see yourself, see the experience. So that is very important. So you have to imagine how things will look like by placing them nicely before you actually build them. So designing is about thinking before you build. Okay, and for that you require various tools. You will use colors, you will use some scale, some other tools. You will use them later on also to build it, but initially you will use them to do kind of prototyping or hand drawing mostly. So it requires a whole lot of paperwork. You will generally not spend too much time on computer. If you have spent enough time on doing your homework on paper or even on computer using some other tool to visualize and adjust and then finally agree this looks the best, and that is where you can take help from your potential customers also. And then you will, of course, think about what are the tools that you will require to build. So during the design, you imagined how it will look like. You created those wireframes or mocks or prototypes. And then you also decide what tools will be required to build it. Okay. So we will use these tools during development. Let's quickly get into development. So what is development? Once you have decided how your things, your website or web pages will look like, you have to make it happen. So when you have created something on paper, for example, you can't show that as it is on your website. Maybe or may not be. It will not look so nice because your handwriting may not be that great. You may want to write it in a specific style, which is called font, but you can't write. You are not a calligrapher. Your handwriting is not that great. But computer will make you use or specify various fonts, the sizing, the color, the uniformity, etc. Right? So you would want to, so in your prototyping, you will do the sketch work or rough work, and then you will make it happen in such a way that it can be uh, useful to the computer itself, which is hosting the content that you create and then make it available to your consumer base on demand. Okay. So what is development? It's the process of developing or being developed. It's the tasks, bunch of tasks basically associated with developing websites for hosting via intranet or internet. Now we talked about internet, we talked about hosting, we talked about website. What is intranet? Any idea about intranet? Anyone who have heard about intranet? How is it different from internet?
Internet is a connection which connect the
Mhm.
same boundary or same domain.
Same boundary or same domain. Less area coverage. Sujit said less area coverage than internet. Yes, both are correct. So intranet is usually a smaller network, smaller, which is limited, which is limited to access, limited for a audience. Only they can access. It is not publicly available. So whenever we say internet, it is like the whole world can see it without any restriction. While intranet is usually a private or limited network where you know the audience or you limit the audience. It may be very location specific or it may be globally distributed, yet access controlled, right? So internet and intranet are technically the same, but it limits the access to certain people or make it available to everyone. Okay. So in the design step, you will also identify the tools that you will use to create. Fine. So that is what you need. And then for our purpose, for our website development, we need whole lot of tools. We talked about standard protocols of communication. So what we are going to use are some of the technologies that are understandable to computers, because computers are our communication uh, uh, providers, or they give a way for users to communicate, and sometimes it is not the physical user, human user. Basically it may be another machine or another device which is the user, so they need to understand each other. So a lot of technologies will come. What we will focus on are three technologies, primarily two technologies, which is HTML and CSS. Don't worry about the explanation of these right now, because we will get into that in our second session in a few minutes from now. Uh, and then we will also learn JavaScript, or which is named as JS here. So we will use few technologies, and there are plenty of technologies, but we will focus on something which is essential and something very basic for our purpose. We will be able to do most of our work using these technologies. We can use various other technologies, but that will come later when we will become masters of these fundamental technologies. We can of course add on to our knowledge. Okay, so a little comparison between design and development. Many a times we get confused, what is design versus development. Remember the boundary, and then you will be very clear. Design is about groundwork, or deciding what you would want to develop. So it is more of finding your requirements and laying out your requirements in correct way. Your ideas are active at that stage. You do a lot of interaction with your potential users, and you finalize how should it look like. You decide the color, you decide the font sizing, you decide the layout, you decide the images that you will use and how will you place those images. So all those things are decided during designing, while in development, you basically translate your design into something that is understandable to computers. And for that, you will use one or the other technology or a mixture of technologies, right? So development is the technical work. Design is a non-technical work, but it requires your thinking and uh, your imagination. Okay, so at this stage we have reached the end of our day one's first hour session, and I will take a pause for 5 minutes so that you can take a break, you can take a cup of tea or do something or walk for a few minutes, and then we'll come back in 5 minutes from now. So we'll just take a 5 minute break. Okay, it's 10:05 right now, so we'll come back at 10:10, and then we will begin with our second session or second part of the day. Fine. In the meantime, you want to learn about some terms that we discussed about today, or some of the other terms that may come in future, which are very common. So it is visible here at present, and you can note them, and after the sessions you can spend some time Google about these and get familiar with these terms. I don't expect you to go into the details of each of them, no, not required for our purpose, but if you get familiar with these terms, it will help you and help all of us. Okay, So we'll come back in 5 minutes from now. It is already 10:07, so I will come back at 10:12 to be specific. Okay. See you again in 5 minutes.